welcome back to Our Sustainable Journey. I'm Steve. Today I wanted to do kind of a background story of what we're doing. I'm actually out in the sun just bleaching buckets. We bleach them before we give them back to people. It's like a 3 or 4% bleach solution. I don't remember the number. But it's a 100-gallon tank, so we fit 10 buckets at a time. So we've got stacks of 10 buckets, and we dry them off in the trailer. Anyway, the story of why we do what we do and how we got started in this, because this comes up a lot. Like, why are you taking food scraps from other people, feeding them to worms? How does one even get started, and why does one get started doing that? So we have to go back probably about 12 years. So 12 years ago, my daughter was about 1, maybe 2, and we were talking to her about fruits and vegetables or something, and she said, well, when they grow them at the store, and that's where we get them. And so we decided that she needs to understand where fruits and vegetables come from. And we'd had gardens before, but she didn't understand that you don't, that the store, the Jewels, the Myers, the Albertsons, whatever is in your local area, that's not where the food is grown. Food is grown on farms, or it's grown in gardens. And so we started a garden. And since we had a young child and we had another one on the way, we decided we didn't want to pump our garden full of fertilizers and chemicals to make everything grow. The Miracle Grows and the Roundups to get rid of weeds and things like that. We wanted to do something a little bit more natural. And so we started researching natural ways for weed control and for beneficial growth of plants, and what we can do to help out and help our own plants and to grow the garden as best as we could. And I came across worm castings. So we came across worm castings, and worm castings is basically, it's worm poop. Let's call it what it is. And so worm castings, basically, worms eat plant matter and they poop out basically beneficial microbes and things like that to help your garden. And so you need about 20% worm castings versus your traditional compost, and so it's more concentrated than traditional compost, and you can do it indoors, versus composting is not recommended to do it inside your house. And so I went and I bought 500 worms, and we started breeding them. And so after about a month or two of us feeding the worms our kitchen food scraps and growing them, we decided to see, all right, how well is this working? And so we pulled them out of the bin, because I didn't count them when I first bought the 500. And so we pulled them out. We set a tarp across the kitchen table, and we started sifting out worms by hand and counting them and seeing how many we had. And in that time, I think we had grown to 550 or something like that. We found a bunch of cocoons. It was the coolest thing. The kids were all involved, and that was pretty neat. And they enjoyed it, we enjoyed it. And so we decided, this is definitely something that we enjoy doing. It's very relaxing, it's beneficial. We're getting rid of our own food scraps, we're keeping them out of landfills. And we started looking into it a little bit further about how much waste in landfills could have been composted, either with compost itself or with worms. And it's a pretty high percentage. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I think it's probably 20 to 40%, somewhere in there. I'm probably making up numbers, and somebody's going to call me out in the comments, and that's fine. But it was a high percentage of things that we can turn back around again and use in our gardens and farms. And that's substantial, because people are like, oh, but the stuff in the landfill breaks down. And sure, it does break down, but landfills by nature are like a sealed casket. None of that stuff gets used again. It's gone forever, because they are lined with clay usually, and or some sort of matter, so that nothing can leak out, right? And that prevents those nutrients from getting out into the soil. Also prevents all the bad stuff that's in there, the acids and gases and whatnot, from getting out into the soil surrounding the landfill. And so that stuff is trapped, never to be used again. And so at the same time that we're growing out these worms, I started splitting my bins. So what that means is you take, so let's say you've got a bin with 10 pounds of worms, you take and put 5 pounds of those worms into a new bin, leave out 5 pounds in, let them grow and breed and things like that. Because basically what worms will do is they will grow to their confined space. So if you have a small bin in your apartment and you don't want to have a million worms, just don't add another bin. Don't split the bins, and they will maintain homeostasis. They will keep their population in check, right? They're very unhuman-like in that regard. And so I kept splitting my bins, and we're a family of 5 at this point, and we weren't producing enough food scraps to keep the bins contained. And so we reached out to a couple of friends, like, hey, can you give us your food scraps? It started out as really close friends and family, so that we weren't total weirdos. And they got on board, and we started giving them similar buckets to these. I think they were at the time like Menards or Home Depot buckets, but same idea to these buckets. These are just your 5-gallon buckets. If I can pull one out. Oh, we had rain, so they're crazy heavy. Here we go. So these are the buckets we use with our customers. Are just standard 5-gallon buckets that we have custom labels for. And so we gave those to our friends, and we pick them up, once a week or every other week, depending on how often and how big their family was and what have you. And it was working out really well. And we're like, you know what? I bet other people would be interested in this. And so we started reaching out to local garden clubs and just in the neighborhood and neighborhood people, and just in our town, in our neighborhood. And we just kept it very, very, very local, because we didn't think it would grow as much as it has. Sorry, our chickens are all around here, so I'm distracted by them because they lay eggs in the weirdest places. So you can see this lady stuck on the patio, and they've been laying eggs down under the hostas right there. She can't figure out how to get out of there. She thinks she's trapped. Let me go help her. Come on. Come here. Going out? Yeah, that's not really built for you. No, you can't. Oh man, no. I'm not trying to get you. Come here. No. Oh, and the cats are watching from inside. Okay, you're just a little bit too chubby. Oh, there you go. All right. So we started doing that, and then we had our blog online, and we were talking about it, and then we started getting companies reaching out to us saying, hey, would you help us out? Get rid of our own waste. And it kind of blossomed from there. So then we started adding coffee shops and grocery stores, and we got the hemp business providing us with the hemp, because they saw our blog or some of our videos and said, hey, that's kind of a cool idea. Since then, we've added a number of other businesses. We have a mosque that prepares meals for their parishioners, and we've right before COVID, we started talking to my daughter's school about their lunchrooms and kind of composting, worm, you know, processing, the worms processing their stuff as well. And it just kind of blossomed from there into this whole thing, and now it's what we do. It's weird. And inspiring other people. I think that's kind of cool. So I'm more interested in getting other people to do it as well, because I think it's a great idea. Keep this stuff out of landfills. You know, we have when I first started, I reached out to local food pantries, because the food pantry in our area, in our former area, I guess, we were in the suburbs at the time of all of this, they threw out a lot of stuff. If it didn't meet nutritional guidelines for the homeless or the needy in the area, they were throwing it away. So if you donated soda or high sugar content foods or drinks, they were actually throwing it away. They were going through, I think, 2 to 3 dumpsters a week. And that was more than we could ever keep up with. But if there was someone larger who could do that, I would absolutely refer them to these food pantries, because they're just getting rid of this stuff. And on the flip side of that, people are going hungry. So it's just baffling to me that they're doing this, but that's besides the point. At least we could, instead of throwing it into landfills, we could be composting it. And so that's kind of how we got started, why we're passionate about the worms and composting and doing this good stuff and turning this land into what it is. It's kind of paradise out here. Oh, I got a cat in the trailer. That's not for you. There shouldn't be anything in there for you. So that's how we got started, why we do what we do, and how rewarding it is. It's awesome to see that we're pulling, I think we're at about 700 to 1,000 pounds a week, staying out of landfills. And it's cool. I never would have thought that, what is that a year? 50,000 pounds a year, roughly, saved from landfills. So if I'm doing that in just one small area of my local town, then how, you know, if other people were doing this, I think that would be great. So I'm trying to get other people to do the same thing. I want everybody to do this. And if you can't, find somebody who can. There's local neighborhood associations, there's garden clubs, there's all sorts of other ways to get this going. You don't have to compost it yourself. You can find somebody else that would be willing to compost it. Find a local worm farmer, a local garden center or something, and ask them if they would like some compost, or start your own company like this, just to keep this stuff out of landfills. So it is its own reward. So yeah, so that's kind of the story of us and how we got started in this and why we do what we do and how super rewarding it is. I love it. I don't know, sometimes it can be stinky, but most times it's actually really, really relaxing. So there you go. All right, that'll be it for us. Time to pull the buckets out of the bleach and start the next round. So that'll be it for me. I will see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.